Hello, guys. So today we are going to continue with the summary of the second chapter of the book Psychology of the Money by Morgan Housel. And in the previous video, if you have watched it, we talked about um, the the role of luck and risk that plays a part in someone's success, financial success or financial failure. And today we're going to continue with that. And yeah, so the author asked one of the Nobel Prize winners in economics, Mr. Robert Shiller, that what do you want to know about investing that cannot be known? So he replied that uh, the thing that he wants to know that we can actually not know is the role of luck in someone's successful outcomes. Um, so let's say if there are 1 billion investors in the whole world, what are the chances that 10 of them would end up being billionaires? If someone asked you that question, and I think most probably the answer to this question would be like there is a high chance that 10 of those 1 billion investors will eventually end up becoming billionaires. Um, and then let's say if there are two brothers who are making high incomes, and someone asks like what are the chances that uh, both of them would end up making high income, and compared to that they would have the same height or the weight, uh, then there are high chances that if one of them is making high income, the other one would also be making high income. And the reason behind that is they both come from a family, most probably both of them come from a family with a good socioeconomic status. And if you come from a good family with a good socioeconomic status, there are high chances that you would have access to a good education. And if you have good education, then there are even more chances that you would end up uh, making high incomes. Um, but the thing is, in both of these scenarios, where 10 people out of 1 billion end up becoming billionaires, and the two brothers, if you tell them that you basically became successful because of luck, then that would basically make us look a bit jealous and mean. And at the same time, if you ask them that if they think that the reason that they're successful is because of luck, um, then most probably they wouldn't acknowledge that, right? So the point here is basically whenever someone becomes successful, it's very hard to acknowledge the part, acknowledge uh, acknowledge the part where luck basically comes into play, right? It's very hard to acknowledge that. I mean, even if I ask myself, or even if you ask yourself, that you have become successful, and what do you think? Like, how much of that success was because of luck? You would say, you wouldn't give too much thought to it, and you would say, it's all because of me, probably, right? Because to acknowledge that luck played a part in that, it's kind of like demoralizing to someone who thinks like that. But on um, the other side of luck is basically risk, right? So, what are the chances that, for example, when we encounter failure, for example, there was a startup that did not succeed, um, there was a there was a person who went into bankruptcy, there was a bad investment, right? Yeah, someone did a bad investment, for example. Uh, but what are the chances that when we look at these failures, how many times we think that that failure was because of our own making, or whether it was um, because of the risk side of the investment or the risk side of anything else, right? But in this case, contrary to luck, we basically point towards our own failures. I mean, our own bad decisions. If our startup fails, we think we did not think about the idea hard enough, good enough, right? If we made a bad investment, we also thought like we didn't give too much thought into to whether if we should have invested in that stock or in that investment at all or not, right? Uh, let's say if you invest in a stock, for example, and after 5 years that stock goes hasn't made you much returns. It has in fact caused loss to you, for example, right? Uh, but then there was also a chance that over the span of those 5 years, that that stock could have made you money. So let's say there was like a 80% chance that you could have made money. It was a very good stock 5 years back, and then there was a 20% chance that that stock might have caused you a loss, like it went down. So the thing is, uh, I mean, in this situation, we basically ended up on the other side of the coin. You flip the coin, there was the luck and there was the risk. Even though there were 80% chances that you might have been successful, but you ended up on the 20%, on the 20% side, and you endured a loss. But the thing is, as compared to success, we mostly attribute it to our own abilities, right? Like, oh, I'm very wise. I know what I'm doing most of the times, and that's the reason I became successful. But when it comes to failures, we don't give enough credit to the risk side of things. So, in anything that can make you successful, there is also a chance that the risk side of that thing can cause losses or failures, basically. Um, so that's the thing. When it comes to risk, we don't give enough thought to the risk side. That things can actually go to shit, basically, when it comes to the risk side. And um, to give you one more example, like whenever you see a Forbes magazine, right? In the Forbes magazine, they would put investors that are successful, even though, for example, if they made like some very not so smart decisions, but since they ended up on the right side of the coin, they end up being on the front page of Forbes because their investments made them rich, for example, right? But on the other side, you don't see people on the Forbes magazine front page who basically did all the research, who thought that their investment was going to be a good investment, but they ended up on the bad side of the coin, and uh, and they made some losses. So basically, the point of this whole thing, of all these stories, is basically whenever we invest, and whether if we end up on the successful side or the unsuccessful side, there are two things at play, and those two things are basically luck and risk. Uh, you can end up on the lucky side, you can also end up on the risky side, and it's just how it is. And so the one thing that we have to keep in mind is whenever we look at someone who is successful or whenever we look at someone who is unsuccessful, we cannot just say, oh, you are successful because of you, or you failed just because of your bad investments. So that's the second part of the second chapter. And I'm going to come up with a third part of this second chapter soon enough, which is basically going to continue with the same risk and luck thing. And yeah, see you in the next one. Have a good day. Bye bye.